This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Brueski.
Jennifer Coffindaffer is with us, retired FBI special agent, as we continue to dig into the case that is against Brian Kohberger. I think at the end of the day, the facts will prevail and the facts will be the facts. So the analogy I've been making, and tell me if I'm off on this, has been a key. You know, a key is unique to a specific lock. DNA is specific to a specific person. No matter who's handling that key, no matter how dirty they get that key, no matter what sort of grime gets on that key, eventually, if you use that key in the right lock, it will open the door. If you get it cleaned up and whatnot for whatever happened to it. If it's a wrong key, it won't open the door. It doesn't matter who handled the key. It doesn't matter what got on it. It won't be the right match. If the key is matching and the argument is more so, well, who was holding the key? That takes them down the road of, well, where did you get the key? And of course, they've made the allegation as well that, well, what if this was planted? What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, again, anyone who is reasonable, in my opinion, and juries, I just have such a high view of juries, I think, Tony, because I've had such great luck with them. I know we can name two famous cases where the jury, many will argue that they did not get it right. But for the most part, juries are amazing. They are made up of everyday people who have a lot of common sense and see through all the flashy lawyer rhetoric, and they just get down to the nuts and bolts of these cases. So I do have a high regard for jury members. Saying that, I agree with you. At the end of the day, these facts are going to stick because there's no way that the key was planted in this circumstance. Who was it going to be planted by? It was partially under Maddie Mogen's body. Mm-hmm. You know, who got in there and magically put that, and who, scraped his DNA off or transferred the DNA off without getting their DNA. And then, okay, if you're going to argue, no, it was his sheath, we don't have a problem with that. And so his DNA, who wanted to set up Brian Kohberger?
Yeah. It's almost a very narcissistic assumption almost, or accusation of like, this person of all people is important enough that someone gives a crap to actually plant it and accuse him. It just seems very out there. The request to stay the court proceedings to investigate potential procedural issues with the grand jury. I know they're making that argument. Is that something that should be granted as well? Again, looking at it from the long game here, to avoid any sort of issues far down the road, would it make sense to allow them to stay so they can actually spend some more time looking at these things and trying to poke holes and trying to find avenues? Again, the truth will likely prevail no matter how it's presented. But should they grant that, even though it would very likely push our trial date back quite a bit?
No.
Okay.
The reason is they already have had one stay, and they're on that stay. That stay is expiring. Do you have the exact date that date expires?
I don't know what it expires, but I know the trial date set for October 2nd, but the stay is close to now. I know. I just don't know they have one.
That's what I think too. In any event, they don't need a stay. They need a continuance. It's time to move. That stay was granted, and they're rare, really. It was granted for a very specific reason, and that was they needed to get all the transcripts transcribed, all that information over from the grand jury over to the defense. The reason for that stay has well expired. At the time of that stay, they should have expressed why, the other reasons that they needed a longer stay, if those existed. So nothing has really changed. And in my opinion, no. They should ask for a continuance, though. And I think a continuance should be granted. But that should be on the record in terms of why they need the continuance. We have to look at 51 terabytes worth of information to see if there's any nuggets out there. We have to see this DNA information if it's granted for us to look at it. But Tony, we're at the stage of speedy trial needs to move forward, but continuances need to be granted.
Yeah, we are talking as of right now about a month and a half or less, actually, until the expected trial date, if they are to actually hit that. From the beginning, you have said this is not going to take place in October of 2023. Do you still believe that?
Yes.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition
This is the Hidden Killers podcast.
with Tony Brueski.